Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Today on the podcast, we're going to be exploring what it means to live with strength, service, and a sense of purpose. My guest is a man who represents all of that and then some. Frank Boniello is not just a firefighter, he's not just a US Air Force member, and he's not just strong. He is officially the world's strongest firefighter 2025. And today we're going to talk about the story behind the podium, behind the gold-plated fire axe, behind the lifting platform, the stone carries, the axle presses, and the hydrant loads. Frank's really awesome journey is one of resilience, discipline, and intentional living. Kind of story that forces you to look at your own limits and wonder, what if I'm capable of more? Today we're going to be talking about the sport of strongman, a really niche world, but one of just pure grit and intensity, and how Frank found himself in it. Not just because he was someone who was handed a title, but because he went to war with himself day in, day out, year after year to get there. He talks about how powerlifting started to feel repetitive, how strongman lit something new inside him, and the fire, not just to be the strongest on paper or the strongest in his gym, but strong in the most functional, real-world firefighter-tested sense of the word. We unpack some of his mental game, what he tells himself when his body feels broken, when he doesn't feel like training, when the competition feels out of reach, how he moves past failure, how he keeps his ego in check, and how he deals with the pressure of being at the top while still aiming higher. We go deep on nutrition, recovery, training strategies, from eating for performance to hot-cold contrast therapy, programming for brutal events like the silver dollar deadlift. But to be honest, this isn't just a masterclass in physical preparation. It's kind of a reflection on life, on how aging changes the game for us, on listening to our bodies, on making peace with where you are, while never settling for less than what you're capable of becoming. We also go into balance, how Frank navigates a life filled with physical demands, shift work, and service, while being a partner, a teammate, a man trying to live well and give back to the community that he works in. So a huge shout out to his wife Darcy as well, who's been a cornerstone in his journey, which obviously tells us we can go faster alone but further together. And behind every great person, there is usually one or two others that have supported them in being there. So whether you're into strength sports or not, this conversation is about you, about finding your why, about enduring discomfort with purpose, and about building a version of yourself that you'd be proud to meet one day. So from strongman history to competition tactics to self-doubt, sacrifice, and standing tall when no one's watching, this episode hopefully will light a little bit of a fire in you to chase your goals with a bit more grit, more humility, and more drive than ever before. So wherever you're listening, the gym, walking the dog, on the rig, on the truck, at the station, on your way to the shift, take a deep breath, have a think about what you are pushing yourself towards right now, because today, hopefully, you're going to take a lot away from what it really means to live with strength, service, and purpose. So without further ado, please welcome to the podcast, Frank Boniello, the world's strongest firefighter 2025. I'll see you on the other side. I wanted to start it off as a nice little thought of experiment, bit stoicism. So Socrates, no man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It's a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. Like, when did you start doing this? Because I look back in your social media and it was only like 2022, 2023, but I reckon this stuff is a lot older.
Yeah, my social media profile is kind of new as far as uploading videos of workouts and things like that. I've always been like fascinated with strength and, like pushing my own limits. Mm-hmm. I played football and I wrestled in high school, and that's really where it started, in the weight room. It was always that friendly competition between your guys. You're just like, well, I can bench 225 or something. It's like, well, I'm going to do 230, It was always trying to like one up each other. And
was it always bench press stuff when you were in there? Because it was for me. It was only like when I met a power lifter, when I started doing deadlifting, and I realized I was actually really good at deadlifting. I'm actually pretty shit at bench press. Like that, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously I tore my pec off when I tried to do too much and took a load of drugs and all that sort of stuff. But my world was actually more squatting and deadlifting. I love the deadlift. They say it's like the core, it's the core sort of man strength exercise. Whenever you look back to the circus days of, the silver dollar deadlifts and stone lifting and stuff like that, really it's, trying to push the earth away from you.
Yeah.
What was your stuff sort of first in? Because a lot of people find strongman through bodybuilding sometimes as well. It doesn't necessarily come through a strict weightlifting background.
So I got into powerlifting. I was just kind of general weight training. I wouldn't necessarily call it bodybuilding because I've never been, like under 10% body fat. So it was more just like strength based. And I ended up getting into powerlifting. Let's see, I did my first competition when I was still in the military, 2017, I believe. And then that's what kind of like cascaded the effect. I was just like, well, this is really cool. Like I want to be able to do more. And, powerlifting is bench, squat, and deadlift. And then you just set personal milestones. And I probably did, 5 or 6. I think I stopped powerlifting. My last one was in 2021.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, I had a bad time.
Okay.
The competition was just poorly ran, and
They're very strict with timings and setups. Powerlifting competitions aren't as, they're very purist. They're very much like, you have a certain period of time to do this lift, you have to be there at the right time, da 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 da. And it's good, it's just very strict in that perspective, but there's something a bit grittier and a bit more, I think, pure about the man versus object element of strongman. Like I never got fully, and the thing with powerlifting as well, as much as we all wear straps and wraps and belts and everything in strongman, like when I started getting introduced to squat suits and pressing shirts, I was like, this feels a bit weird. It felt a bit weird, and I know you can do it all raw and there's lots of different federations and all that sort of stuff, but I got a bit bored of it, I think.
Yeah. So you did powerlifting as well?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I lived in an area around Loughborough in the UK, and Loughborough University is the centre of performing excellence for sport in the UK. And a lot of powerlifting champions come from that area, deep into a lot of the research, and they just have an incredible setup. A lot of the Olympic teams would train there. You know Ross Edgley, have you heard of him?
What's his name again?
Ross Edgley. So he swam around the UK. He had a book called The Art of Resilience, and he's still big on doing lots of social media stuff, but he's a UK lad. Anyway, he's probably one of the bigger celebrities, if you will, who came from, as much as a lot of the Olympic athletes came from around that sort of area as well. He's one of the ones that probably did the more social media route to it. But anyway, they talk a lot about the sports science there. And I remember doing stuff where we would attach electrodes to ourselves under studied conditions, because you would measure the unconscious capability of your muscles versus the conscious. So like you would try and do a leg press, was one of the standard ones. We'd do a leg press, just you do a leg press, and then you attach things to you, like attach patches and electrodes and stimulate the quad and see what your capacity is. Obviously, you're never really going to full capacity because you snap the quad off the bone. But they do loads of those sort of studies around there. But anyway, off that rabbit hole. That's mine started with powerlifting. And then it wasn't until I met a guy called Terry Hollands, who is a UK. You probably know Terry. I trained with him once or twice. Then a guy called Lawrence Charlet and Mark Felix. When I really fell in love with deadlifting, I was lucky enough to do a couple of sessions with Mark. And then I just kind of got bit by the bug with it.
Yeah, all those names are way up there.
Well, they've all had a similar transition towards the end, actually, not all of them, but certainly Terry. You look at Terry, and I know Hathor did the same. Brian Shaw's going through a weird place at the moment where he did a load of weight because he was going to do some fighting, wasn't he? Yeah. But I know Hathor and certainly Terry, I think their bodies, and Eddie Hall actually as well, his body, I remember reading stuff. In fact, I think it's in his book where it says about, met with a doctor and you're going to die in the next year if you don't stop doing this. The pressure on your heart and all of the the supplements and everything else that he was taking at that level. A lot of them have lost a lot of weight. And I've lost 6 stone since the back when I was competing. Then I was 24 and a half stone. Then I'm about 18 stone now. But yeah, it's a real, because it's still quite a small sport, isn't it?
Stone.
Yeah. How much do you weigh? You're in the under 105s, aren't you?
Yeah. So in freedom units, that's 231 pounds.
Freedom units. Fuck your freedom units. So even now, this is ridiculous because you're colossally stronger than me, but now I'm still around 115 kilos, but I was about 140 kilos, which is 200, it's about 300 pounds. It's 2.2 pounds to a kilo.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like, no, it would have been more than that.
Yeah, I always bring out my calculator because I have to, some of these workouts are like competition is in kilos. And you're like,
yeah,
it is so much simpler.
Americans do it in pounds because it sounds better.
I'll say that it is so much simpler.
Like first 1,000-pound deadlift, stuff like that. It just sounds better when it's in pounds. So yeah, you compete in the under 105s. Sorry, that's my ADHD dragging us down rabbit holes. That will happen a lot. So you started in powerlifting.
Yeah.
When did you have that bad experience? What sort of steered you in a different way?
Well,
this episode is brought to you in partnership with Godiva Limited. Godiva is one of the world's leading providers of specialist equipment for emergency services market. Godiva produces a comprehensive range of fire pumps, including vehicle-mounted, portable, and their cutting-edge integrated total water flow control system, SAMFlows. I've been using Godiva my entire career as a reliable pump on the fire ground. It is such a crucial element of a successful firefighting team that you want to empower your crews with the very best, reliable, quality product. Reach out to our partners by checking the notes in the podcast. Now back to the show.
I was already getting bored with powerlifting. Mm-hmm. And this was competition. Let's see. I was looking to break some records with this organization. And the incentive was there was going to be cash winnings. If you could break a world record in this federation, then there's cash winnings. And I competed. They had a cops, fire, and a military division. I was like, well, cool. I already hit 2 of those boxes, whatever. I performed really well and never saw payment from it. And
mother flippers.
Yeah, and it was just a long day too. It was very unorganized, and I was just like, man, this kind of sucks. I hit personal milestones that I was really proud of. And then I was like, I've been ready for a new challenge. So I've always was fascinated with strongman, and I was like, I really need to dive into this. So I was able to find.
I always think strongman is they've gamified, even though it came before powerlifting. But I think to myself, why is powerlifting not such a massive sport? Similar to wrestling, actually, because MMA is a massive sport, but wrestling isn't really. But wrestling, in the 6 months that I did it a long time ago, Jesus Christ, is that some of the hardest training
very
for
technical.
the collegiate wrestlers.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Oh my God. The amount of torque and pressure that's applied to your body in some of those training. And it's also cardiovascularly, I think it's the hardest training, because with anything else, even the endurance stuff that I'm doing now, it's me on a machine or me on a thing, or it's you against a weight. When there's another human being pressing on your face constantly, there is no rest. There is no rest. It is the hardest goddamn sport. It's not.
You will never
the
gas yourself out quicker.
When you do wrestling, it's just Jesus. I remember reading something about street fights, some CCTV recordings, and they were like, the average street fight lasts about 7 seconds. This is in the UK, because usually within 7 seconds, someone is just smoked. They're gassed, or they've quickly realized one person can fight and the other person can't, and the other person's like, fuck this, I'm getting out of here. But fight training. I always think UFC athletes, American football players, and probably arguably some of the CrossFit people now are some of the most highly tuned athletes. But circling back, powerlifting doesn't require any less discipline than in the UK, if we said a Premiership football player earning £1 million a week or whatever they earn, it literally is, it's not far off that probably for some of them. And I think, well, why is powerlifting, or equally strongman now, although strongman has got monetized in a good way, powerlifting has never really broken through that. But these are
Yeah.
sometimes the strongest people in the world. But it's just not appealing to people. Versus strongman, it's you and, I was watching you with the log press or the hydrant lift, it's 3, 2, 1, go, and it's you versus that person, stone lifting, whatever, and you've gamified it. That's why I think strongman is it's going to continue to grow, but it's so much more interesting than powerlifting, even though arguably there might be some stronger deadlifters in powerlifting than there is in strongman. Yeah. In a purist sense of the form. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I consider like powerlifting with kind of like Olympic weightlifting, like it's very like it's simple, I guess, to like watch, but only the athletes really understand what it takes to get to that level, like
I think Olympic lifting is a little bit harder to get into because there is some mobility challenges that if you simply don't have that level of mobility and that range of movement, Olympic lifting can have more barriers to it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's very skill based.
Oh yeah.
Not that they're not very strong, but it's very skill based. And if you haven't got that range of movement, you just biomechanically, your legs or your arms or your shoulders just don't work that well. It's not as easy for you. Whereas strongman and certainly powerlifting is a bit more, I don't want to say gruntish, like there's less skill, but Olympic lifting is very technical.
Oh yeah.
Very technical. You ever done Olympic lifting?
I'm working on some of it right now. I've never trained it before, but there's such a big crossover into strongman and a lot of the movements and stuff where like if you don't try and learn it, you're kind of like just kind of doing yourself a disservice, I think. Because
the efficiency that's involved in Olympic lifting can really help out.
Yeah.
You move the weight so much more efficiently. Who was the Russian ex-military strongman? Mika. Oh, what's his freaking name? But he was an Olympic lifter. I'll have to search him up in a minute. And you see that in the way that even he lifts the log.
Yeah.
He cleans it like an Olympic lifter. He doesn't roll it. Yeah. Like a lot, like Zadrinis and stuff would roll it and everyone else will roll it. He almost cleans it. I need to look at what his name is. I'll have a look at him in a minute. I think he may have retired now. He was either Russian. He always used to come out in a beret.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a military beret.
Always bleed.
Yeah. What's the freaking name? But anyway,
I think I know
Savage,
what you're talking about.
Olympic lifter. Yeah. You know what I mean? And because he was so much more skillful, maybe in raw strength he wasn't as good as Zadrinis or whoever. Not that he got away with it, but he was just more skilled.
Yeah.
And you would see that in the way he lifted because he would snatch things, and also he would like overhead press with a dip. Do you know what I mean? He wouldn't just raw dog it. Glenn Ross from the UK.
Unfamiliar. I'm sorry.
Irish strongman. Okay. Never broke into the world. I think he maybe was in the worlds once or twice, but he wasn't very fit. He was just very, very strong, and he would go massively wide on his overhead press. And he'd only be lifting it like a few inches off his chest.
Yeah.
But he would do the whole clean onto the gut, like a lot of them do, and then he would just almost lie backwards, and you just think the pressure on your lumbar there must be horrific. But he would almost be damn near horizontal, and then it's almost like an incline bench press.
Yeah.
He was doing. But I think he held the world record with the axle press for quite a while. The log was harder for him because it's so fat, and he wasn't as barrel chested.
Leverages are off,
And also sometimes, because how tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
You're short for a strongman. Do you know what I mean? Not to take the fucking better than me and everything, but like when you get into those, when I was strongman,
I'm
for context,
short.
I'm fucking nowhere near anything you've ever achieved. But when I was going through the stuff, and I'm 6'5", I got up to about 24 stone, but I was competing against people like Terry. I was never competing against Terry, but I was looking at people like Terry.
Yeah.
And then you look at Brian or Half Thought, and you go, oh, you were 25 stone or 350 pounds before you even started training.
Yeah.
You have just got giantism. You're just a massive human before you started. Do you know what I mean? There is a genetic element to this as well, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Being short doesn't help in some of the events. And then on some of them, like it kind of does. It kind of works in my favor. A lot of the, I would say, more static lifts, like your overhead presses, your deadlifts and stuff.
Overhead press,
I'm
deadlift,
shorter, so my range
100%.
of motion is going to be shorter. But when it comes to like
Stones
lifting,
will be a bitch though.
yeah, like stones, I'm 5'9", and a lot of the like platforms you have to put a bar onto.
You're almost pressing the first stone, aren't you?
It's like 52, so that's like 4.5 feet. And I'm like, dude, that's like here. I got to get the stone.
Yeah.
I got to
Well,
replace
that's what I mean.
my
You're
head
cleaning
with
it to shoulder and then tiptoeing it on. Whereas for some people like me, that would be at chest height. Not that I could lift it. But yeah, there's that element to it. Sorry, so take us back. So you were going through the powerlifting, kind of lost a little bit and you thought, oh, this is a bit of a shower of shit. It's not really well structured in certain places, not everywhere. Of course, there's lots of great stuff out there. What was your first introduction into strongman?
So, believe it or not, my first strongman competition was the World's Strongest Firefighter in 2023. I just went.
That was the photo I saw. That was the first photo where there's like 30 of you. Yeah,
I just went like full tilt, man. I was just like, and I competed open class too, which is like no weight limit, and I still weighed about the same as I do now. So,
wow.
yeah, that was a big like eye opener. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm not an open level athlete, and maybe I should start trying to, do things my body weight, because they have those weight classes,
Weight moves weight.
Yeah.
Past a certain point. There's just reality, isn't it? Certainly when you come to truck pulls and fire truck pulls and all that sort of stuff. Weight moves weight. Some people just got to lean forward and the shit starts moving.
Yeah.
So your first competition was 2023. How old would you have been then?
Let's see. How old am I now? Probably like 29, maybe 30.
Yeah. 29 or 30. So that's a good age to start doing it. Your muscles have been given a long time to develop for something like this. When you were looking at the other people that you were competing with, because you're all still operational in some capacity, whether the police, fire, whatever, obviously in the firefighters one, they're only firefighters. But some of the massive people, would you be thinking like, how the hell are you still working in the fire? So you can't run up a set of stairs.
Yeah, it's crazy. Because I always thought I was like a bigger fellow, but you meet some of these guys across the world. They're just they do the same job as me, and they're just huge, and man, to be able to still do the job and train like that, that's really incredible.
I was looking at an interview with Brian Shaw the other day, and he was emphasizing his desire more for the strongman elements of it, and he spoke a lot about functional strength and that ability to think that you can just lift anything anywhere, and the functional element of it rather than strictly barbell stuff. When you think about strongman as a sport, why? Obviously you're very successful at it, so that's maybe a self-perpetuating cycle as to why you continue to do it. But why do you think a lot of people? Why is it such a growing sport now? Why are you so interested in it?
It's just fascinating, like there's so much to get good at, like there's 100 different things you can press over your head, like all the different like deadlifts or stones. Like there's just so much to get good at, and then the progress that it takes to get good at those things is just it's really rewarding, And I think that's why I kind of got bored with powerlifting. I was like, all right, I'm like fairly good at this, but it's just kind of like repetitive in the same like 3 lifts.
There's less wins on the table, whereas like you say, if you can spread the wins over like 12 different disciplines, then you can have wins every month, because you'll probably make some marginal improvement in something. But if you're always focused in on those 3 disciplines, I think it would be incredibly hard mentally to sustain that sort of motivation for something like that. Well, what do you think? What do you think is realistic? So when you're talking about making improvements and stuff like that, for people just starting in their weightlifting journey versus people in the 99 percentile like yourself, what did newbie gains look like? The newbie gains that were the fun stuff at the beginning versus how do you quantify a win now? Because you're looking for the you're looking for the 1% now, whereas before I imagine there was much bigger surges in your strength.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like the newbie gains, like you were just starting to figure out like your capacity, and the jumps will be so much bigger because the adaptations that are taking place, just they happen in bigger strides, you know. And then once you become like technically proficient in a certain exercise movement, you know, the margin for like improvements it diminishes, you know. So
It gets demoralizing. It can do.
I mean, yeah, like just I remember on the log press, it took me a long time to be able to get, 300 pounds over the head. And then it took me even longer to like just add 30 pounds on top of that, you know. And but it's much more rewarding, I would say, because you're trying so hard in comparison, you know, like.
Do you ever think about the finiteness of time the window that you have to continue to develop strength though? When do you think we stop getting stronger?
I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like you kind of reach your limit probably mid 30s, late 30s to 40, you know. Not to say that you can't get stronger than you currently are if you're like brand new to a strength sport.
Yeah.
You know, but as far as like your peak fitness level, I think that, I mean, I don't know the research off the top of my head, but I kind of think it starts to diminish closer you get towards 40 and beyond, you know.
I think that walks hand in hand with testosterone as well, doesn't it? Unfortunately, when you're in your mid to late 30s, those things can start to drop off. Yeah. And then you're kind of fighting nature, really, which is the frustration there. When you're looking at some of your training programs, I mean, the most basic principles that people think about with progressive overload and the principles, like, do you remember the story of Milo and the bull?
Refresh me on that one.
So Milo and the bull was he was a Olympic champion, like strongman, 6th century. This was like before BC, so before Christ. And the story goes, and it's just an analogy for progressive overload, but he supposedly bought a calf from the local market, and he would walk every day until the animal had grown. He put it on his shoulders and walked to market. And then over the weeks, over the months, over the years, the thing would grow and grow and grow. And that's where, if you've ever seen a picture of a huge jacked dude carrying a bull, which is quite an iconic thing that a lot of people use, that's Milo and the bull. And it's the principle of progressive overload. So the thing continues to get heavier. He continues to carry it. He continues to get stronger. I think that's highly unlikely it was true with respect to any sort of biblical stuff. This stuff wasn't written down for thousands of years, and now we're supposed to believe it's factual. We say it's gospel, don't we? I'm like, I imagine that. If I told Frank a story now and asked him to repeat it in 6 months, I think he'd get it wrong. Do you know what I mean? So we're expecting these stories to have lasted thousands of years. But nonetheless, it's an interesting for progressive overload. So what does training look like for you now in terms of structure, rest, all that sort of stuff? Because I never took enough rest. I think that's one of the things that I got a lot of injuries.
So right now I'm in the off season. We could talk about that a little later. But I train 4 days a week, and then I have 3 rest days, and I just kind of split that up. So, and I'm working on my weaknesses right now. Just kind of breaking down each event that I find that I'm not as good as I would like to be, and then where in that movement that I'm struggling the most, or what needs improvement to get, to the next level. And we're doing overloads in that way. So right now
what are the areas that you want to work on?
So I'm working on like the split jerk, for like Olympic style split jerk, and just the stability. There's a progression, like a progression model that I was taking some classes for a degree I'm working on. But the progression model starts with, stability, strength, then power. And that's kind of how we're working at it right now, is like focusing on the stability and strength. And then when it comes closer to competition, that's when we're going to really focus on power and, just maximal performance.
It's a great way to think about anything, because you're ultimately putting your foundations in place. It's a little bit like if you were trying to push something really hard, but it's 2 degrees off, the quantifiable lost energy that is in that misdirection is just going to further highlight a weakness that's in your foundation, which is your balance, which is your stability. So it's loads of stuff that doesn't look very sexy. It's lots of, one-legged things and stabilization stuffs and barbells that have only got 50 pounds on them overhead, trying to do slow, controlled movements.
That's a lot of what I'm doing.
I think that's a lot of the boring stuff that a lot of people miss,
Yeah.
And then you're building your house on sand as you continually because you can also get stronger doing the wrong thing. Everyone will get stronger.
Absolutely.
Just, past a certain point, until you fully have exposed that weakness when you've gotten so much strength in an unstable position that something goes snap. And that was me. That was prolapse disc in my back. I had to cycle right back and learn how to deadlift again properly, because I was just really exposing weaknesses in my back. But it takes a lot of humility to do that. I think you have to really switch into a professional mindset, feel like yourself, and just say fuck everything else. Doesn't matter how it looks. I'm comfortable enough in myself and my abilities not to worry about how this does or doesn't look in a gym or on social media or whatever. Because you've almost, I always say most of us will never be great because we're not willing to look shit. Do you know what I mean? And looking rubbish is a bit harsh to say, but we're not willing to look like a beginner again. And then you say with the powerlifting stuff, you're not a beginner, but you know what I mean? You've got to have that student mindset and have that humility to do it. How much of a barrier do you think that is for probably anybody when they're trying to do something new?
It can be very humiliating. It's an ego check,
Mm-hmm.
I got a new coach I've been working with for maybe just a little under a year now, and man, that was the first thing. He's like, I don't like your deadlift. I don't like it. So I was like, guess what, dude?
Did you say
we are
yours?
still working on it, because you just have those muscle motor patterns that are ingrained, and it takes so hard, it takes so long to build a new motor pattern when your body is used to moving a certain way, and it's just it's frustrating for me. I'm sure it's frustrating for him too. But
you compare it to
the
Tiger
product
Woods.
that's going to be
had
there.
to learn a whole new swing. Even after he'd won God knows how many world championships, he had to learn a whole new golf swing because he was ruining his back.
Yeah.
But when you've got a lot of success with something, you're like, no, I don't see what you see. But that's where, the study of biomechanics, and when you can actually measure things under, cameras and load and pressure platforms and stuff like that, if you've done any work with those, it's really, really fascinating. Highlights lots of vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easier, rather than trying to strengthen your strength, you strengthen your weaknesses, and it's kind of like that rising tide raises all the ships, because these instabilities will improve all of your lifts.
Absolutely. Yeah. You familiar with the American football player Tom Brady?
Yes.
Yeah, he said something about just mastering the basics. That's what sets him, that's what set him apart from everybody else. He's like, I'm just really good at the basics, and I train the basics all the time. So I think that's kind of what we're doing right now, and not as not as big scale of things, but I mean it still applies.
He talks about the fundamentals, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because with respect to him, he's an incredible athlete, but he's a very underwhelming person to look at. He doesn't look the same as a lot of the other incredible athletes, but he has mastered the fundamentals.
Yeah.
He's so good at the fundamentals that he's not building his house. He's not a one-trick pony. You know what I mean? Where he's trying to build his house on sand. He's so good at the basics.
Yeah.
I think we can skip past those, which makes it really, really hard for a lot of people, especially, as you say, when they've started to get success in one element of their life.
And when I started out strongman, I did not know any of the base fundamentals. It was all just aggression and fuck you attitude. I can do this,
Yeah.
And that lasted so long, and I knew I was wearing my body down. You know, a couple of minor injuries, thankfully nothing major, but I knew it wasn't maintainable. You know, especially trying to get to that next level. Like I want to I want to like earn my pro card, which that just sets me up to compete against the best guys in the world, you know, like at this sport. So if I'm already run down, you know, what does that look like in trying to like reach my goals? Like, well, it's not maintainable, you know?
You got to like switch the engine out, haven't you? Because it's like saying I'm in a 2-liter vehicle and then I'm telling myself I'm going to change to the gears and go another 40 mile an hour or, you know, 60 kilometers an hour faster in this same vehicle. And someone's like, dude, you need to change the wheels. You need to switch the engine out. I'm not saying you can't do it, but with this current setup, the engine's just going to explode. You know, the wheels are going to come off. You need to cycle back.
Yeah.
I always say we're too impatient to be intelligent, certainly for myself. You know what I mean? Just so impatient. You just want it now. And I think we get rewarded, or we get conditioned in the world now for instant gratification.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to watch the whole thing on Netflix now. I will order it from Amazon. It'll arrive tomorrow, if not today. Where the fuck is it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to wait for things. And I think that also, you know, to tiptoe into that area is the reason you see so much performance enhancement in the sports these days, because we haven't got the patience. You know, I say from someone that, you know, I took masses of steroids and growth hormone, and I think that contributed to a lot of my issues, you know, with torn muscles and damage and all that sort of stuff. But I was just so impatient when I was a kid. I'm still impatient now, but I've had to pay the cost. The only reason I've stopped doing stuff is because I've had to pay the cost of it.
And now it's forcing you to be patient.
Yeah, well, you know, you said about injuries and little injuries. Like, I remember a pro surfer, I forget the lady's name, and she said, she's written a book, I've read the book. Shit, I can't remember it. I'll find it in a minute. The body whispers before it screams. And I went, ooh,
you know so something's good. Not right.
You're not surprised.
You're
when
like,
it goes snap.
You know, that was kind of giving me issues, and I just ignored it. It wasn't significant enough for me to like change my path, you know.
So how have you learned to listen to the whispers?
I mean, just like that. You don't, and then something happens, and you're like, yeah, you know, that could have been avoided.
Yeah, I think that takes a lot of maturity, though.
Yeah.
And I don't think age comes with maturity all the time. Like, I'm going to push back and say it is as simple as you say, but just because it's simple doesn't make it easy.
No.
Because everyone says, oh yeah, everybody trains injured. Everyone trains tired. We see that as, you know, the Goggins of the world. Yeah, I'm running on broken shins. Okay, that's fucking stupid.
Well,
you know what I mean? But we reward it, and let's, you know, context. I'm not a Goggins. I couldn't do anything he did, but I'm sure in his darkest moments, in his quietest moments, yes. I mean, the Ronnie Colemans of the world. You know, Ronnie says, "Oh, I wish I'd have lifted more, and I wish I'd have done that 5th, you know, an 8th rep on 27,000 pound squat, whatever it was he was talking about." Yeah, but you can't walk, and you've had 11 spine operations. Like, come on. I think the problem with having to admit that it would be framed as regret, and we don't like to have regrets. We don't want to raise our hand and go, "Oh, I messed up there." Do you know what I mean? But that's why I'm so transparent about my drug use in the past, because I'm like, that was a mistake. Yeah, that was stupid. I don't know if it changes when you get kids as well, because I've got I went through recovery and stopped taking stuff when my daughter was born, and I don't know. I think that's a really. You haven't got children, have you?
I have a 3-year-old daughter.
I apologize. Congratulations.
Thanks. I took her to school before I got on this.
How's being a dad changed life? This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together. Less money.
Yeah. Less. Something I'm like currently working on, is just trying to devote more time to the family and to my daughter, because, from working as many hours as I do and like having the hobby that is time consuming, there's so many different distractions out there that really like take away your time, and you need to focus and it's something I'm continuously like working on. I'm not going to say I'm like perfect at it by any means, but my wife does a really good job, and I have to, congratulate her on that. Like when I'm off work, we make sure we have some family time, so.
Mate, it's easy to forget because everything's a priority. This guy from the UK wants to do a podcast. This company says they want to sponsor me. This place, they've invited me out for a seminar and they're going to pay me $800 or whatever. You're like, okay, fun. Is it making the boat go faster? Do you know what I mean? To quote an old book, is it moving me further towards my expressed goals?
Yeah.
Or is this someone just massaging my ego? And actually, I just feel like I want my ego massaging. You know what I mean? It's so true because you do. Like, family is a great way to force people to squeeze their time. Because I also say, like, the only people that'll ever remember that you went into work on the weekends and came home late every night is your kids and your missus and your husband or whatever. Do you know what I mean? No one else will care.
Yeah.
No one else will remember that you burnt the midnight oil to entertain the crowd and the horde. It will be your daughter and your missus who says, Frank was never there.
Yeah. And it just like,
that hurts.
There's so much like I said, distractions, and some of them are like really exciting, like you want to go do that, and then you have to like take a step back and like, well, there's only so much you can give, and if I'm giving to that, then what is that taken away from? And then unfortunately sometimes like you're taken away from your family to like go do something else, and you'll never get that time back. So that's something I'm working on, is just trying to have a better balance,
Because I always say like your decision to be one place is unknowingly a decision not to be anywhere else. Like your unconscious decision to spend time with me on this conversation today is a decision not to do anything else with your most finite resource, which is time. I'm doing this, ergo I'm going to do nothing else. Do you know what I mean? And you have to become more and more into... There's a great book by Oliver Burkeman called 4,000 Weeks. Have you ever read it?
No. I haven't done much reading at this point.
Audiobooks. I don't read anything.
I'm
reading stuff.
I'm taking some college classes right now, so I do a lot of reading with that, and not too much like reading on the side,
Well, that talks about, it's called 4,000 Weeks, and it basically breaks it down to saying that the average person lives 4,000 weeks. And you're 33 now? 34?
I turn 32 next month.
Sorry, 32. So if we go off the average age that men die in the Western world, like 84, you've got 50 Christmases left.
Yeah.
That's a bit morbid, to be so... Yeah, but it's also good in a way, because it shouldn't leave us in a catastrophizing mindset. It should think, I need to be very intentional with my time. Your daughter is 3 years of age. You've got 15 more Christmases with her, perhaps, before she goes off to college or moves out or finds a lovely partner that she wants to spend the rest of her life with and bored of spending time with dad. 15 ain't many years. 15 Christmases. 15 years seems long. It's hard for the mind to quantify, isn't it? But 15 Christmases, it's like saying 15 Saturdays. Jesus Christ, I've only got 15. Yeah. It's not a lot. And it makes you really think about things a little bit more. I remember reading Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield. And that helped me change my mindset with a lot of stuff. It made me think like, Like your strongman example. How would I treat this thing if I was a professional at it? Do you know what I mean? It's sometimes easier in a sporting context because you go, well, what I would do is I would take rest days before the thing. I'd make sure my bag was prepped. I'd check the travel plans 3 or 4 times. I'd check my nutrition. I'd make sure my meal prep's done. I'd check, and I'd be ready. Do you know what I mean? And then you have to ask yourself, how much of everything else in your life are you half-assing? You know, when you're planning time with your partners, if I wanted to be a professional dad, how would I think about that? How would I intentionally spend time with my daughter? It's not to beat yourself over the head being stressed about how hard everything is, but it's to think you want to live intentionally. Do you know what I mean? I want my kids to feel, you want Darcy to feel your presence. Not that you're just here, but you're on your phone and you're not really listening. You know, when you first got together, the way she brushed her teeth was the sexiest thing on earth. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now, you're kind of like, babe, you're dribbling. You know, sort yourself out.
Take that.
You know, you probably don't say that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you said you were going to be the best thing for her, and all I am, I give to you, and all that sort of stuff. But it's hard, isn't it? Because we only have a finite amount of time and energy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you said 15 Christmases till she's 18. Well, like now that she's like 3, she used to be home all the time, and I was like, oh man, this is just so much, just they need a lot of attention, and there's not much else you can do. But now, like, she's going into school, she's 5 days a week, and you can just see, like, well, I'm not getting as much time anymore, so the time I do have has to be intentional, and instead of like surviving like we were, when she was younger. It's like, okay.
And also you ask yourself, am I going to do the things I want to do and not do them at the cost of my family? Like, if before you were always like, I like to eat all day and then I like to train when I'm full and I feel ready for it. So I usually train about 4 o'clock, and you go, all right, well, now my kid gets back to school at 3. I've had all day. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then even if all of your mates and your training partners get to the gym at 4 and it's a bromance and you're all ready and the music's blaring and all this sort of stuff, you have to say to yourself, I want to keep pursuing this dream, but I'm not going to do it at the cost of other people. I'm not going to ask other people to pay for my dream. So if I'm really serious about A, being a dad, B, being an athlete, C, being a professional firefighter, whatever it is, how am I going to structure these stuff so one is not paying for the other? You know what I mean? If I really want it, I should be the one restructuring my life, not just saying, oh no, I'm not going to be here for tea again today because we're doing deadlifts. Really? We've done it. I've done it.
Yeah.
I've certainly done it too many times. And that's when I started training really, really early in the morning and set up the whole home gym and all that sort of stuff. Because I was like, I'm going to train between 5:30 and 6:30 in the morning, or 5:30 till 7. Because then I'm not missing breakfast. I'm back in the house for breakfast with my kids, with my daughter.
Yeah.
It's hard though.
On my off days, I typically train whenever she's at school. So, like, and my wife works, so that's like the perfect time. Like, well, they're both busy, that's my time to go get the things I want to get done. And then that way my afternoons are free, And unfortunately, like, I don't really have a training partner because of that. Like sometimes on the weekends we'll do like a strongman Saturday, But like aside from that, occasionally some of the guys will come in like around lunch, but it depends on their schedule. Like most of the time it's just me training by myself. So
that's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of discipline, but I've never needed somebody to like push me. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah.
I'm internally motivated, and I'm not saying I wouldn't love to train with those guys, because you push yourself harder. When you're around your friends, like,
but that can go in the negative as well.
Like watch me do.
That's what I'm saying. If the plan says, if you've got a structured 13-week strength program, and today 300's on the program, and your mate's like, hey man, put 320 on, put 330 on, whatever. And you're like, I get it, but this is already guaranteeing improvement.
Yeah.
So like, You know what I mean? You don't want to push the pedal too hard and then be like, shit, I felt that. Do you know what I mean? Something just clicks and you go, why was I doing that? Why was I doing that?
So like for
So
progressive
hard.
overload, if every week you're trying to do like 5% more on a lift, you know, and then like you train with your buddies and you're like, well, that's like 10% more. Like, how does your progression look after that? Because now you have a lot more fatigue going into your next week when you were supposed to hit those numbers. So like you took 2 steps forward, but now you got to drop back 2 steps, you know, like, so like, how does that prepare you for the competition? Like, are you going to peak too early and then like shit the bed at the comp, or, you know, like everything in the program is designed, you know, for being your best self, your, you know, your peak capability on day of, you know. And if you go off from that, you know, it might not really work out to your favor.
So take us to that. Take us to competition. Take us to the weeks leading up to it. Technique refining, deload, you know, trying to drop a lot of the weight. And then talk to us about pre-comp prep. And I'd love to just break down what was involved in this year's 2025 competition, and then kind of take us through the emotional roller coaster of that.
So I'd say about 4 weeks out from the competition is when I start doing things that are like more specific and like event run-throughs. So it's like very specific to what the competition is going to be. I try to mimic the training environment, you know, to do exactly that, you know. The weeks before that is kind of like technique refinement, I would say, but still have that event.
And
like,
what load
focus.
are you at? Are you at 60% load for these, or you're not doing competition weights, I'm guessing?
No, it kind of goes in waves, you know, where you're like 70, then 80%, and then, you know, like maybe 85, or some of the things like say sandbag runs, like it's hard to scale those. So there's different ways.
And also
like,
sometimes the load isn't really the problem.
yeah,
It's
like
more the speed and the
cardio.
technique. Everybody's going to lift it.
Yeah. Things like that, you scale it by how many rounds you do. So like I'm doing 1 round this day, and then next week I'm doing 2 rounds and 3 rounds, you know. So what else?
How much complete rest will you have before a comp?
So there's a thought process that was explained to me by my coach about fatigue and performance. And when your fatigue is high, like there's it's hard to explain, like unless I have like a graph.
As an
in front
inverse
of me.
relationship, yeah.
So your fatigue is really high as your performance gets high, because like the compounding weeks beforehand, you know. But as soon as you drop your fatigue too low, your performance also starts to, or your capacity starts to diminish too. So
It's a stimulation curve. It's about optimum performance. It's an inverted U, isn't it?
yeah, and so we keep fatigue high until the week of competition. Like I'm not taking any breaks. Like even the week of, I'm still training, but the week of is definitely scaled back because I have to perform that week. But yeah, it's throttled down to the last week, you know. And I mean, it works. You feel like crap because your body is just like beat up, you know. And
how does that affect you?
You don't feel your best going into the show.
I was about to say, yeah.
But I performed like I never have before, you know. Like I was an animal out there. So, I mean, there's a method to it. You might be able to ask him to explain
Well, there's
it
a
a
big
little
thing to
better
be said
than
for
me.
adrenaline and performance anxiety as well, isn't there? Some people fall apart in competition, and some people just absolutely come alive with it. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah, I mean, if you're, I'm kind of used to, I guess, performing as far as like I played football, I wrestled, you know, like I did powerlifting. So being like competitive around others, it doesn't affect me, you know. Yeah, like I don't get. I mean, I'm not gonna say I don't get nervous. Like I get nervous, but like once I do that first lift, like I'm golden, like I just tune everything out, walls kind of go black and I just tunnel vision, like I have a mission and I just try to execute.
Well, it depends how you interpret it, isn't it? Because I remember someone speaking about performance anxiety, and they said, I remember, and I get to the stage, and then my hands get clammy, and I feel the butterflies in my stomach, and my heart rate rises, and then I know I'm going to have a panic attack. And you hear the same from another performer at the stage, and he's like, "How do you know when you feel ready for it?" And he's like, "Well, I know when I'm getting ready for it because my heart rate rises, my hands start to get sweaty, I get that sort of rise in my stomach, and then I know I'm ready." It's like the same wave of emotion is approaching both people.
But how to navigate it is different.
Yeah. It's whether you say, I'm nervous about this or I'm scared about this versus I'm excited about this, I'm ready for this. And people think it's clever BS word games, but it really isn't. It's how you choose to interpret the environment around you, isn't it?
Yeah. And like for those who get, I would say like competition anxiety, my best.
How do you if you had someone training with you, how would you help them get over that if anyone's listening? Because like we do a lot of Firefighter Challenge events and some people are just so nervous.
Compete way more often than you probably should.
Yeah.
It will just
exposure.
Yeah. Just get out there and then like eventually like you're not going to be affected by it anymore,
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be like more relaxed after a while, like you'll be able to like navigate those emotions,
So take us to the competition. So for people that are unfamiliar, this is part of the Arnold Sports Festival, isn't it? It was end of February, March.
Yeah.
Every year. This is the 6th time they've done it. I think it's the 6th time they've done it.
I believe so.
Active duty firefighters, men and women, different weight classes. What was it like getting to obviously you've done the event a couple of times before. What's it like showing up there? How do you get yourself sorted? What does food look like on the day and the day before? Like, can you eat when you feel that excited and that sort of geared up for it? And then kind of take us through the events and the unfolding of it.
I know they have an Arnold Sports Festival in the UK. I've personally never been. But
it's like a smaller version of yours, basically.
There's thousands of people around, like there's competitors from all over. It can be a bit overwhelming. And let's see.
Especially when you're just trying to get in your zone and get sorted, because everyone wants to have their own space. They all want their own stuff in their own area.
There's no space for you. There's no space. So you have to become friendly with everybody. Like, hey, can I sit right here?
100%. I want to just lay my gear out. I want to make sure everything's where I need it to be. I've checked my wraps and straps and tape and chalk a bajillion times, but I need space and I just need to sit down, pull my hood over my head, put my headphones in and just chill for a bit. Yeah. I know I've only got 25 minutes now and I said I wanted an hour to warm up and get loose, and now I've got 25 minutes and it's harnessing that, not letting your head fall off, isn't it?
Yeah. But since I've done it like 3 times now, you see familiar faces, and that I think that really helps out a lot, because you're not like just one person in a crowd. You're like, oh, now like, hey, that's my buddy. I remember him. Like, catch up, and but
I find the community in Strongman is very friendly as well, because whilst it's one against the other, it's not like boxing or wrestling or anything like that. We're both going to do the same thing, but we're not actually against each other. We obviously are, but it's you versus the implement. It's you versus the event. It's not really me versus you, as much as it seems that way. We structure it in a way where, right, Frank and John, 3, 2, 1, go. Do you know what I mean? But it's not. You don't have to hate each other. There's no real benefit in that.
No,
you know what I mean? It's very friendly and supportive.
Yeah, I don't think any of the firefighters in this competition have like any animosity against each other. And you see it throughout the whole weekend. Like everybody, they're trying to help each other out in any way possible. Like they're like, hey, I noticed this like on one of your lifts. Like, try to like just tweak it a little bit. Like, you don't want to mess anybody up, but if you notice something like so simple that they could fix and perform better, like I see that all across the board. Like, people are just going to go help you out, like even if you don't want them to.
So what was event 1?
So event 1, it was a 2-day competition. We had 4 events each day. If you qualified on day 1, you made it to the finals, and there was a drastic cutoff. So there was about 40 people, I think, in my weight class in the 105 kilo, and only the top 2 made it to finals. So you had to be good, man. You had to be really good. And but
that's a savage cut, isn't it?
It's rough.
Yeah.
And
what was the first event?
The first event was log press. They had 2 options, a light and a heavy.
Shit, a log press.
And it was for time.
Okay.
60
I
seconds.
prefer stuff for time. They're doing a lot more of that now, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a bit more athleticism in the sport, less just like max lift.
Yeah, it's just variation, you know, like they try not to make the competition the same like every year, or like they don't want to have the same competition that was just done like a month ago. So they want to
Plus,
change
you find
it
a
in
lot less
some way.
athletes. Sometimes when you see the world deadlift competitions, you're like, well, you very quickly get down to 3 people.
Yeah.
Because it's not reps, 500 pounds or 1,000 pounds or 800 pounds. You know, it's like single lifts. And you're like, well, people just drop out so fast.
Yeah.
Because they just can't do it. Whereas in a rep, they'd probably be fine.
Yeah. So like the log press, there was a light and a heavy option, and then anything you did on the heavy option beat out the light option.
So even if you just did a single rep on the heavy, you'd get more points than the light.
Yeah. If somebody did, say, 5 on the light one, and then you did 1 rep on the heavy, like, well, you beat them.
Wow. So what was the heavy? How heavy was that?
255 pounds.
So about 115 kilos. That's all right, actually.
Yeah, and in my opinion, it was a little light, but...
Twat. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a bitch weight, but, fair enough. So you obviously went for the heavy.
Well, I say it's light because I really like the log press, and I would say I'm fairly good at it. So for myself, I wanted more of a challenge as far as the weight goes, And I thought it was, I guess, light enough where...
well, the record is like 500 pounds, isn't it, for the log press? So it is a long way.
Is it 500?
Yeah, it was a Giants Live. Iron Bibby broke Zavickas' world record. He did like 500 and something pounds. I know, because it's about 230 kilos. I remember Zadrinis doing that in like 2021 or something like that. And I think it was broken in 2023. I'll Google it in a minute. Yeah. But I think it's like 500 pounds. Is that the record?
That's crazy.
So it's a long way off. I can't do that either. But shit, I'm just saying there's a long way to go. So what reps was the? How did you do in that first event?
I did really good. My gas tank was like firing, man. I
First
just ran out of time. Really? I could have got more, but I ran out of time. Like you only have so much in 60 seconds. Yeah. So I was able to win that event. I had a good feeling.
How many reps in 60 seconds?
Oh man, how many did I do? I want to say I did like 7 or 8.
Wow.
Yeah, I was fast. It was.
Do you have to put it down?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I thought, because from shoulder to overhead, with respect, you probably get a lot more. Because you probably do.
Yeah,
you could probably do 3 or 4 in a row.
Only, and then keep it here.
Yeah. And you could just bounce. Were you allowed to? Sounds stupid. Were you allowed to dip, press, snatch with it? If you know what I mean.
Not like most
push press,
like pressing, like variation or styles were allowed for that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's still big though. 8 reps. Jesus. Okay, so you won that event.
I think it was 8. I would have to go in there and check.
No one's going to check. Don't worry. You won the thing. No one cares.
You could. He's like, hey, dude, you said you did 7 or 8, but you only did 5. Like, call me out, man. That's fine.
Right, I fucking won. Shut up. Anyway, so you did 10 reps.
It just keeps stretching.
More every time you tell the story, it's getting more. Yeah. And then how long do you have break between? Because 2 days of that sort of competitive sort of thing is really heavy on the body.
Yeah, it's pretty fatiguing. So they don't do much in between days, but there's
MSA are supporting us on today's podcast, and I chose to partner with them because I've been wearing this stuff for nearly 20 years, and they are the global leader in development, manufacture, and supply of incredible, safe products that really protect people, not just our communities out there, but also first responders, most importantly, all over the world. Get yourself over to MSA and have a look at it. The high-performance protective clothing for emergency services responders. They also partner with us on the UK Pink Firefighters. It's because we love them. The helmets with the reflective visor, the F1XF, absolutely epic helmet. And not forgetting how they improve firefighter safety through their connectivity in the connected firefighter platform. MSA are always pushing the envelope, and it's a real privilege to be able to continue to grow our partnership together. So whether it's your PPE, your bunker gear, your helmets, your SCBA, your thermal imaging, your Luna, or your portable gas detection, both of us know that this equipment needs to work. It needs to be high quality, reliable, and dependable in the moment. And that's why I use MSA, because they know what's at stake.
We had over 100 athletes day one, and so you do get a fair amount of time in between events.
Okay.
So
what was event two?
After the log press, we had a trap bar, or like a hex bar deadlift, and that was it was the same kind of structure where there was a light option and a heavy option.
Mm-hmm.
But
was it a standard deadlift? It wasn't like a car deadlift.
Yeah. It was just you're familiar with like a hexagon
Yeah,
bar?
we have hex bars, trap bars. For people that are unfamiliar, you're basically holding the bar. So with a barbell, you will hold it flat, standard Olympic across the front. Whereas with a hex bar, for anyone that doesn't do weightlifting, you're holding it right down by your sides. It stays in your center of gravity, and you're lifting it like you would two suitcases. Except it's not like a silver dollar deadlift. You're lifting it from the same height of the plates, so it's a lot lower down. But usually, I mean, you can't jack with it. So you can't jack it up the thighs like you would do a deadlift. But
traditionally, people
I'd have
are
to look which the highest record is with a barbell. But some people can lift some colossal weights in a hex.
there. I believe. So you're familiar with Brian Shaw? He has his Strongest Man on Earth competition, right?
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Controversial.
I believe they're doing a max rep this year in August.
Wow.
For the hex bar, so that'll be really crazy to watch.
Let's have a look. Brian Shaw, 4 times world record. Utilizes the Rogue TB trap bar. Yeah, he does a lot of that training. And they are going for a rep.
I think it's a single rep this year. I've heard some strongman competitors talk about it, so that'll be really cool to see. I think a majority of them are well over 1,000 pounds for something like that.
Well, he's got it in here in his training, 650 pounds for 8 reps that he does on the hex bar. That's shit. I'd expect more from him.
It's a speed day.
It's a speed day. But when I've done car deadlifts before, sometimes I prefer them because you can lean back into it as well. That's why I think you're lifting some crazy weights for stuff like that, because you're more leaning against the machine versus the stability required with a hex or with a barbell. So yours was a hex bar deadlift for reps again?
Yeah, for reps.
What sort of weight what was the heavy on that?
I want to say the heavy was 650. Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
My heaviest ever was only ever 340 kilo deadlift, standard deadlift off the front. But 650 for people, that's just shy of 300 kilos. I've got the calculator up in the background. I don't do maths fast. For people, I'm not suddenly turned into fucking Rain Man. I've just got the shortcut. 300 kilos for reps. So we're getting that is 115. I think a lot of people can quantify that 115 kilos for an overhead log press. A lot of people could envisage that. They'll probably see some people in their gyms lifting that sort of weight. But 300 kilos, 650 pound deadlift. You don't see many of those people around.
And it was a battle. There's a lot of firefighters that put up some high reps on that event.
So, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, how'd you do on that
one? I think I got like...
Because you're short, so you should be good at this.
Yeah, I ran into an issue with my straps. So you can strap into the bar, and but the handle was so close to like the deadlift bar itself where like trying to get my straps through the handles,
Couldn't wrap very well.
it just took more time than I thought. And
Oh, they didn't let you start from a touched position?
no, so you started from
You
a
couldn't
line.
strap in.
Like
What straps do you use? Do you use figure eights or do you wrap?
Yeah, I had
Use figure
figure
eights.
eights because it's a little bit quicker
Yeah.
once you get it in. But I
You ever
had
had
a
one
little
snap
bit
on
of
you?
a little. No, I haven't.
Fucking hell, I had that once. Scariest thing ever. Yeah. Not because I was really strong. They were just really, really old wraps.
Yeah.
And I thought that's when I was using wraps round it.
Oh yeah.
And then I moved to figure eights because I was like, fuck this. I'm lifting too heavier weights now
too strong, man.
to invite that failure. No, yeah, I'm just too strong for all the equipment. No, it was. I think there's just more room for error with wrapping versus the downside. Obviously, you're tied into it, which is probably why Olympic lifters and people that do CrossFit just use a short wrap, a very very short wrap. But they're not throwing up any of the same sort of numbers. So you went figure eights. Took you a while to get it in because you had big fat hands.
Yeah, I got some minutes.
You fucking big gorilla mitts.
Yeah.
So that was really, really annoying while you were dicking about with that when time was ticking down.
Oh, it's so frustrating too. You're just like, come on, like I'm.
And everyone's shouting for you until they just start going quiet because they're like, he's not even got his fucking straps in. Has he done this before? You know what though? Sometimes when you do see some people that have never used them before and then they try them for the first time at competition because they see other people have them. And I'm like, no experiments on game day. No experiments. No. Don't take a new supplement. Don't try a new eating routine. Do not try a new belt. Do not try a new set of straps. Doesn't matter if someone says they're guaranteed to get a bigger lift because it's not going to work. And I've seen people like putting them the wrong way around and like the crowd screaming at them. And you're like, you fucking idiot. Come on. Be a professional. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, so you messed about with that. So I'm guessing you didn't win that one.
No, I want to say I placed like fourth in that one. So I still did fairly well.
How many reps on that?
I want to say I did like 12.
Really?
Yeah.
They were fast then. That's a rep every 3 seconds. You were tap and go.
Just so good. Like, I mean, you feel so much stronger from that position. Like, you can just go and go, it felt like.
Do they, are they happy with just tap and go, or they need to see it at dead weight?
Yeah, it has to completely touch the ground. They give you up and down commands, so.
Oh, really?
So there's no bouncing or anything like that.
Mate, that's really fast. You only had 60 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I mean.
No, mate, that's fucking hard. That's really hard. That's because the down commands on deadlifts is where a lot of people just start getting angry and annoyed because they want to go at speed, but they go before the command. And you know, I remember when Eddie Hall world record deadlift at Wembley or wherever it was arena in the UK, and he let it go from the top, so they repped him.
I saw that.
And you're like, really? Oh, come on, this is just stupid. This is stupid.
He was
the purists
obviously
of the
the
sport.
Strongest.
Yeah, the purists of the sport will go, no, you didn't complete the rep. What, I didn't put it down, the easy bit?
And
the bit that gravity does on its own?
Right after that, I think it was another competition where it was maybe a max deadlift or something. He's over there holding the deadlift.
Yeah, I know, shouting at everybody. And he calls the lady over, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's just holding it the whole time.
And he has a chat with her. Yeah. I remember seeing that one because I chatted with Lawrence Charlie after it because he tore his lat off, didn't he? It was brutal. It looks, I'm not going to pretend to guess his origin. I think he looks slightly Indian or Turkish or, I might have to edit this out, I don't want to offend Lawrence. But anyway, maybe he's Iranian, Lawrence Charlie. I don't know. But anyway, I remember seeing him because he was going to be one of the ones that did really well in it, and he tore his lat. And it was so demoralising because he'd just come back from a long injury and all that sort of stuff. But then you see Hafthor and people like that, and you just go, geez, they're just so big. Just so big before they even have to do anything. I remember training with a farmer, and there was a farmer, a UK farmer that was in the World's Strongest Man. I forget what his name was, like second year ever doing it. He was in the World's Strongest Man. But anyway, farmer strength is like a real thing. You know, I always think the strongest people in the world have probably never done strongman because is some bloke in a field in South Africa and he's just picking up a tractor with one arm, because that's just part of his daily life. You know what I mean? He's just like, oh, the tractor's broken, and he just drags it back to the house.
I gotta change
Doesn't
the tire.
realize he is the strongest man in the world because he hasn't got time for it. Anyway, this farmer, and you think to yourself, if you've been throwing bales of hay around since you were 6, you're going to be bloody strong.
Absolutely.
You're going to be really strong. You just don't realize it. I think the first time he went into the gym, he deadlifted like 500 pounds. And then everyone started saying, dude, that's a lot of weight. A lot of weight for your first deadlift. So straight off the bat with
this
stuff
little
like
thing.
Exactly, yeah. And his technique was horrible and all that sort of stuff. Do you remember Derek Poundstone?
Oh yeah, that guy's insane.
What happened to him? Did he have some
insane.
massive injuries or something? Because he just disappeared, didn't he? He exploded
Maybe
onto
he
the
just
scene.
had that realization. I don't know the guy personally, but maybe he came to a point where he's just like, I need to separate myself.
Yeah, maybe. And then you have the Mariusz Pudzianowskis of the world, who similarly just won everything and then was like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
But also he had a massive property portfolio, and I think he's quite a good businessman as well. But now he's doing cage fighting, and I don't think he's very good at it.
Well,
Any clips
he's
I've ever seen,
older.
he's getting his ass kicked.
He's older. I thought that was.
Yeah, it's a strange thing to get into in your 50s.
Yeah, he fought I want to say he fought in the UFC or he fought MMA for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Still doing it.
The guy's in his 50s. Like,
He just fought Eddie Hall.
Yeah, and Eddie, crazy strong, just clocked them once.
Well, you don't get to the age of 50 and go, you know what I need a bit more of? Someone punching me in the face.
It was a
I
good
don't think I've got
paycheck.
enough of that in my life. Yeah. Just get a different hobby. Go fishing. Jesus Christ. But he was like one of the first bodybuilders, one of the first strongmen that really looked like a bodybuilder. I was like, Jesus Christ.
That guy's
growth hormone
he's
is
an
fantastic.
alien.
Anyway. So deadlift was round 2. What was the third event?
So it was he's familiar with the Husafell stone?
Yes.
So they made a sandbag version of that, and we had to carry that for distance. So for the middleweights, the 105 kilo class, we had a 330 pound bag. They had to pick up off the ground, and walk with it as far as you could.
Mm.
And
Traditionally an Icelandic event, wasn't it?
yeah, it was
because they call it the Husafell stone now, but it was the Valhallan one because it came from Husafell in Iceland. I remember the background of it, and they just used to use it to prop open cattle grids and stuff like that, sheep pens or whatever. And the legend is you pick it up and see how far you can walk with it.
Yeah,
so that's all it is.
If you would be considered like a, I forget what Icelandic word it is, but if you could make a full lap around with the heaviest stone, then you were considered like a man or something.
It was a testament. Now it looks like a shield. It didn't used to look like that in its traditional sense, but it looks a bit like a Superman shield now. For people that don't know, it's a bit like a really big tombstone, but it's in like a Superman half triangle, and you just pick up and waddle with it. And again, closer to the ground. Mind you, you've got shorter arms as well. Can you touch?
What do you mean?
Do you manage to get your hands together around it?
Oh no,
because I see that's the thing. Because that's a big one. When you see the athletes that are longer arms, you're like, well, yeah, you got the grip. You're an immediate advantage. They can actually close their palms around it, and you're like, yeah. Whereas yours, like the biceps and the forearms, just get smoked so fast.
Hand strength you need just to like I'm holding it by applying pressure with my fingertips.
Yeah. How do you train for that? Other than just doing it?
Yeah, you just practice.
Okay, you do the thing. You haven't got any particular grip strength. Because there was those captains of Crush, wasn't there? Have you seen them? Yeah. People used to take them to strongman shows and see what people could do outside. I'm not sure the practical application from that, other than the Hercules hold, maybe. With the columns.
There's a lot of applications for a good grip in strongman. It carries over into a lot.
Farmer's walk.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff. So how did you do on the stone?
So the Husafell, they had a replica made out of a sandbag, but the shape was exact same. And I was able to win
Is that Rogue product?
The Cerberus.
Cerberus.
Yeah.
Cerberus strength. Great smelling salts as well.
Yeah. So I was actually able to win that event. I had a pretty big advantage going into that because the way they structure strongman competitions is based off your points. You know, like if you have the most points, then you're going last on an event.
Yeah.
You know, in the next
And then you can
one.
start getting strategic.
Yeah,
You only have to do
so
enough to win. And then you can
I had
back
the
off.
privilege of watching everybody and like how they were picking it, what they were failing at, what they were doing good. And then I was able to like make a better game plan going into that one. I was like, okay, well, this is the distance to beat. They allowed you to like kind of sit down with it, but the object.
Oh, you can squat and readjust.
Yes, but it could not touch the ground. And
Yeah.
everybody that I saw try to readjust failed.
And dropped it.
They did not like continue to go any further.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
I never practiced that in training. I was like, just stick to the game plan. I mean, that option is there, but I don't think it's going to be beneficial because I just see like the unsuccessful like attempts at that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, Husafel Stone, when they started doing sandbags, it makes a lot of stuff a lot more accessible because you can buy the sacks and then fill them yourself.
Yeah.
But when you're training for a traditional Husafel Stone or Atlas Stones or something like that, it's a lot of kit that you have to start buying and making room for. Because the Husafel Stone, for people that don't know, they're about 400 pounds.
yeah,
It's about
it's
185
just a
kilos.
stone like outside
For a single stone, yeah. Just sit it in the garden. You've got to move it every now and again because it ruins the grass. Do you know what I mean? It's a big thing to have lying around.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
a sandbag, if you need a transport, you can take the sand out if you want. Or,
So sand out, yeah. Sand or dirt anywhere, isn't there?
yeah.
Moves a little bit differently. But so you won that. What, you won that as well?
Yeah.
Smoking the shit out of day one.
I'm telling you, I felt the best I ever had going into this competition. Just like the confidence on everything. Like the coach was able to like, he's really like smart and technical when it comes to the sport, and he's able to like I just like kind of analyze like what is going to set you apart, and then like that's what we need to build upon. So,
Who's your coach? Let's shout him out for a second.
yeah, he's Travis Bogard. He's up in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Nice.
Yeah.
Travis Bogart. I feel like that name rings a bell. Maybe he's worked with somebody before. Probably worked with a lot of people.
I don't know how many I guess pro athletes he works with, but
Let's have a look. So he's traditionally football background. No, he's not. That's a different person.
I believe he played football.
Oh yeah, there he is. Rest Training Systems, University of Wyoming, Cheyenne.
He's got a lot of great information out there that, I encourage anybody who's listening, go take a look on his Instagram page, and I promise you'll find something beneficial. There's a lot of content on there.
He was a national wrestler, 2008, 2009. And he was a head football coach. Nice. Looks like an interesting bloke.
Yeah, he's really
Anyway.
smart with it.
Final event, day one.
We had a steeplechase. 2 sandbags. You had to run them 20, 25 feet clear over a crossbar, and then you run back, get the second sandbag, run that, clear it, and then you pick up both of them, clear a second crossbar.
Fucking hell. So much more of a
Speed,
movement, mobility,
yeah.
endurance, speed.
A lot of speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I like to see more now because it lends itself more to what strongman traditionally was, which is a functional sport
Yeah.
versus just a standing still, how much can I statically lift, moving and wrestling with objects. It's much more interesting for the crowd as well.
Yeah, it was a nail biter too for that one, because me and a fellow firefighter, we were, I think we had like similar points going into this, and we were able to go head to head in that event, and it was split seconds between me finishing second and him winning it. But it was really cool to go head to head with him because he's just Harry Walker. He's just such a fast and dynamic athlete.
Nice.
He won the middleweight World's Strongest Firefighter in 2023.
Okay.
He's a man of many hats. He does wildland firefighting. He still has ties to the military and deploys with them. And yeah, real good dude. So it was
Sounds
cool.
like an interesting bloke.
It was cool going against him because he's a good athlete, you know. And I wanted that opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, let me see if I can beat
It's that
you.
rising tide raises all the ships. You want somebody that pushes you, 100%.
Yeah.
So you were in the lead day one, or?
Yeah, I was able to finish day one in first place. Yeah.
Nice. Does that help? I mean, obviously it helps day two because of the way it works, but from a pressure perspective, did you know the event? I'm sure you knew the events for day two already.
Yeah. They released all the events, you know, a couple of months before, so you're able to train everything. But as far as like the structure went, me making or winning first place did not structure me any different for the finals.
Okay.
Just because they have like a unique thing where men and women are competing, and for the finals they were doing like a Wilks scoring. So it's kind of like a pound for pound, you know, like they were trying to do a pound for pound equation with open class men, middleweight men, lightweight, and there's two women's classes, but any one of them could win World's Strongest Firefighter with like the score
relative to their weight.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of like they structured all the weights for the events and like the scoring system to fit that. So
That's interesting.
it gave everybody the opportunity, you know.
Yeah.
They wanted.
But sometimes I think, yeah, I get it because some people just aren't going to get as big as other people, and that makes it a little bit fairer when you have. But people just want to see that they want to see the strongest, irrespective of how much that person weighs. With respect, you know, that's the ones that gets the crowds. It's your events, really, with respect. You know, it's probably more impressive to see a woman do it because of how much more difficult it is for the opposite sex. Total transparency.
Just the genetic makeup, you know, like there's really strong women out there, and who knows, maybe next year a woman will win World's Strongest Firefighter. They're trying to make it like inclusive as to like regardless of gender, you know, like anybody could win it, you know, like regardless of like weight or gender, you know, like you can win the title, and it goes back to like you call 911, you don't know who you're getting at. Come on, like you don't know who's going to walk through the door. It could be any one of those. Yeah, any one of those demographics who walk through the door, and they need to be strong.
100%, absolutely agree. So, end of day one, you're still holding the title. What was the events for day two?
We had an axle with tires on the end of it, and there was a clean and then press for reps. So you didn't have to bring the axle bar down to the ground. If you could just hold it here, you could just
that's nice.
Do it.
It's cleaning an axle, for people that don't know, it's like the size of a Coke can. They're really, you can't get a grip around the damn things. No. Lifting them takes so much energy.
Yeah, and traditionally people do like an over-under because like trying to grip it both hands over is just, it's so...
so you get halfway up the shoulder or the chest and you've got to make a transition at some point to get in that press position, and that can be really difficult if you haven't practiced it. Yeah. What was the weight on that?
So I had 275 pounds, and that one was as many reps as you could do in a minute. And one thing my coach told me, he's like, "You're not dropping that thing." He's like, "I don't care. You're gonna hold it, and you're just gonna finish out that minute." And it was one of the most like mentally and like physically challenging things I had to do. Was like just hold it in this position, regardless if I could get a rep.
You can't breathe.
No, and you're so fatigued up here too, like lats, shoulders, everything. And but that carried over to that event so well, where I didn't drop it at all, and I was able.
I'm surprised they had that in as well as a log press on day one, because that's 2 overheads.
Yeah, I mean it's 2 different days, but
but if you shit at overhead, it's and they're also both freestanding. They didn't like have like when you've seen like the overhead presses with fridges or quad bikes or a pump or something like that, where it is, yes, it's an overhead event, but you're moving on an axle, so it's a slightly different dynamics of it. But anyway, axle, it's a bloody difficult lift for anybody. I think there's a lot more technique involved. Well, I don't know, probably as much with a log, because you usually hold a log in a different position that people don't know.
Yeah, axle is probably traditionally closer to like an Olympic style, like clean.
Once you've got it up there.
So, what did you say?
Once you've got it up there, it's easy. Yeah, it's more like an Olympic press, but
Yeah.
it's just a pig to clean it to your shoulders. It just doesn't move very nicely.
Yeah, and since it was on those big tires, if you drop that thing, it was bouncing like 3 feet off the ground.
Hit you in the face. Yeah.
And it would like move. It would bounce really high and like move. And I saw it, and it was like, oh my gosh! Like, don't drop that thing.
Yeah.
You're gonna be chasing it because it had to be on the platform for you to do the reps and have them count. It couldn't just bounce its way off the
control
stage.
Of this game over. Yeah. That'd be getting annoying real fast. What was the rep count for that?
I want to say I got 9 and won that event across the board.
Nice.
Yeah.
3 events to go. Still lead. Did you lead through the whole thing? Spoiler alert.
I don't know if I did, but finals was supposed to be 4 events, and they had some technical difficulties with one of the events, so they had to scrap it.
Okay.
But so we got cut down to 3 events for finals.
All right. What were they?
So we had that axle press, and then we had a silver dollar deadlift.
Mm.
And that one,
That's a crowd favorite because you see massive weights.
Oh yeah, I think ours got up to like 15 pounds.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was. I shredded my hands wide open. I ripped calluses off of both hands. Was bleeding everywhere. It was rough.
Even with the wraps?
Well, I used the figure 8s, and you still grab the barbell,
Yeah.
So,
Fuck.
that was a mistake on my part. I could have used something else to wrap, like a standard strap to wrap the bar and be.
Was that for reps
off.
again?
It was ascending weight, so you still had a 60-second time cap, but you started at a base weight. It was 500 or 550 or something like that, and then every round they added weight onto the bar, so it made 90-pound jumps, and then you got to the final weight, so it was 915, and then as many as you could do at that high weight. So it was
How many did you crank out?
on the last weight I got 2. My first attempt, that thing did not move at all.
Just stared at you.
I was I picked it up, and everybody was cheering, crowd's going crazy, and I could not lift it. So I had to drop it, recenter myself, take a few breaths, try to focus on what I was doing, and then I was able to get 2 of them. But
how do you stop yourself panicking when that happens?
I mean, there was a little bit of panic. Because you're dude, I have to do this. If I want to win, I have to do this.
Were you not allowed to skip weights?
No.
Because sometimes you can't you? You can opt out of certain lifts and choose to go on the next.
For a max lift, they make I don't know, 20, 40-pound jumps or something like that, and you could probably skip a weight if you didn't want that.
Yeah.
But you couldn't skip on this. And it was I was just after that first one didn't move, I was man, you gotta dig deep, bro.
What did you shift it in training before? Because that's usually a good indicator when you can think I know I can do this, because you've got confidence in yourself. What's your max on a silver dollar?
I had a lot of struggle with that event. I only trained it 3 times, and it was always giving me a difficult, I just never was able to figure it out.
Because you start from just above the knee, don't you? Or just below the knee?
It's just below the knee, but once the slack is pulled, it's above the knee.
Yeah, because people don't realise when you break down a deadlift, And that's how you do like deficit deadlifts, because you realize what your slow points are and where your sticking points are, and you try and work through those. And if you've never done a silver dollar before, usually getting past the knees is the sticking part for a lot of people. They can be fast off the floor and then they grind it at the quads. But being forced to start with no momentum from just below the knee is really difficult if you haven't practiced it.
And the weight all hits you at once.
Yep.
Because there's so much slack and then there's none, So
that's where you usually see things snap. It is beyond a privilege to be able to bring the Firefighter podcast to you, and we are so grateful for every single person that supports, listens, shares, and follows our journey. But here's the honest truth. It takes a colossal amount of time and work to keep the podcast going. And to help us keep doing it, create more, reach more guests internationally, and make the podcast sustainable, we're asking for you to help. And to do this, we've set up a Patreon page. Now, by joining this, you'll not only support the future of the podcast, but also gain access to exclusive benefits. Now, if you've ever wanted to meet a member of the podcast, buy us a beer, buy us a coffee, and you think anything you've ever listened to on the podcast has been worth £3, that's basically what we're asking you for. By joining our Patreon community, you will get access to every single full episode archive we have ever made. Now, hundreds and hundreds of key documents that we've got in there on fire behavior, firefighter health, cancer risks, instant debriefs, and so much more. A growing collection of valuable resources to help you learn and grow. Your support in whatever way, dropping it in the WhatsApp group, sharing it on the local newsletter, whatever it is, it's incredibly valuable, and we really do support it. And we need it to make it a long-lasting resource, that legacy resource we always talk about for first responders, firefighters, and everybody everywhere who's ever been interested in joining the fire service. Now, if you're already supporting something, as many people do, it's totally cool. You can still access the podcast for free, and you'll always be able to access all the new episodes for free. But we're asking for your help to make this sustainable. And we want to keep growing, we want to keep sharing the insights, and we want to keep showcasing the incredible work happening in our community and our sector. So if you feel like you want to join the Patreon crew and help us make this possible, head to patreon.com/TFFPC or check the link in any episode podcast notes.
I kind of figured it out the week of competition. As I told you, like we keep fatigue high, and like we were just gas pedal down all the way through, and it was the week of competition. I was like, I was gonna take it easy, and I was like, I haven't figured this out. I need another training session with this, and I'm happy I did, because thankfully that last session, week of, I was able to figure it out. I was like, just like using your leverages and everything. It can be challenging, frustrating, and it seems like you're going nowhere, but just making little adjustments and trying things like just a little bit different can make all the difference.
It's like putting combinations in a lock, and you just get the final digit right, and then it moves, and you go, oh, right, yeah, okay, so I need to lean through my heels at that point and just slightly lean backwards and drive, versus trying to lift it vertically, because you can almost get away with a reverse pull past a certain point on those.
Yeah, like I was having the hardest time at that lift, and I was like, the way I was feeling, I was like, dude, I'm so close to this, but like this weight isn't moving, and the way it's looking, like this is going to be really humiliating, and but
do you start getting strategic at that point, like Travis, looking at the points and stuff like that? You've still got 2 events left. Do you not start thinking strategically and thinking, let's lose the battle to win the war?
I guess yes and no. Like, I'm never the type to just like quit on it. I'm going to keep trying until they tell me I can't anymore. Hey, your time's up. So I would have stayed up there like as long as it took. Like, I know it's only 60 seconds, but sometimes it feels like a lot longer than that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, at a certain
for 5
point,
seconds staring at it, it just seems like a time. It's just glacially slow.
Yeah. At a certain point, you might cut your losses. I see people do that. They're just like, like it's not there. Like I'm trying
I'm not moving this. Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, as long as I stay strapped in there, nobody's telling me to stop. I still have time. I'm still going to try.
Think about saying strapped in. Do you drop to your knees so you can actually breathe? Because once you're strapped in, it's hard to breathe. Maybe not on a silver dollar, but certainly on a normal deadlift. When you're in the hole, like I always stay on my knees until I'm ready to lift. Yeah. Because you can barely breathe when you get locked in.
Yeah. I don't know if I dropped down at all. I'll have
I
to,
need it for a minute.
yeah.
As in just like you're a big barrel chested guy. I'm surprised you can breathe when you're squeezed into that position. Were people allowed suits, or was it all raw?
No. Raw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So what was the last two events?
So we were supposed to go into a hoist lift. It was a like a rope pull. It was it hasn't been seen since like I want to say it's like 1970s World's Strongest Man, somewhere in that era. But it was a vertical rope pull, so you pull from this way instead of like out in front of you. And yeah, unfortunately, they had some technical difficulties with that, so they had to scrap it. And then the event that ended up being the final event was a hydrant loading race. So
Variation on the Atlas stones.
yeah, exactly. That's where I was going. It really similar to like an Atlas stone run, but you had say 5 hydrants, and I don't know if you've ever picked one up. But they are really awkward, really unique, and like just your hand placements and like trying to figure out a hydrant is like, it's really like technically like challenging. You're like, how in the world? Because the weight is all like all over the place. Like it's either really bottom heavy or really top heavy because it's all like cast iron, and a hydrant is usually hollow on the inside to allow for water to come through. So,
But no, you're right. With a stone, like you see, you can grip it and then almost lean back on it, and it'll purchase itself up. But with those hydrant lifts, it looks like it would suggest it wants you to lift it halfway up, just before the lugs come out, just before the inserts come out. But that's almost too high because you won't get it on the platform for some people. So you need to go hand under.
right.
But then you're tipping the weight, aren't you?
Yeah.
And it just becomes does it have to stand
I
erect
had
on the
to
platform?
stand all the way up. So you couldn't just like tip it on its side,
You can just throw
pick
it on
up like, you know, like a stone or a sandbag or something.
Yeah, that's really a tall person's event then.
I want it. No. I'm short. I want it.
So
I'll make it do with my short
knowing
size.
that was the last event, you must have known going into it what you needed to do, because I imagine you went last on that one, did you?
No, just the structure of it, since they had all those different weight classes. I think I still went in like the middle of the pack, but I knew going into that event that I was doing well. I didn't know how well I was doing, but I knew I was doing well because personally I don't like to look at the scoreboard, and like I don't want to like throttle down to play like the long game or something. Like me not knowing is better for me to perform at my best, or else I might just like just not try as much. So I knew I was doing well, didn't know how well, and then I smoked that one. I got the fastest time, and
Nice.
I thought I didn't know I won that one until like the whole competition was over,
Wow.
because it was split seconds. You know,
Yeah.
like I think the guy
Imagine at that level.
the guy that I thought won, I ended up beating him by like 0.3 of a second. It was that close.
Jesus.
And he's a really tall fellow.
So what do you win when you win something like that? Obviously you get a big trophy.
Yeah, I got that. I don't know if you've seen the photo. I got that gold-plated fire axe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're going to use that. We'll share it with people that haven't seen it.
It's
Very
so
traditionalist
cool.
together. Is there a cash prize for it?
No. So the organization in itself is a non-profit.
Yeah. Somebody's making money, I promise you.
So they were talking about perhaps in the future having some sort of like cash prize. I honestly don't know if there's going to be people that will take that, or if they're going to like turn around and donate it, you know?
I think they should take it,
Yeah.
personally, because with respect, it takes a tremendous amount of discipline to perform at the level you're performing at, and otherwise you just become a busy fool, and they rely on the sport operating on passion.
Yeah.
And I think we should reward athletes much more, because I think it then makes the sport more sustainable. It makes it easier for people to justify the commitment to their families. if they know that all of this travel and all of this personal investment is not just a hobby that's got out of control. It is actually going to provide us with some life support and all that sort of stuff as well. Dog's back in the game.
Yeah.
He's good. We'll wrap it up soon. I want to be respectful of your time. So this is one thing I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
10 exercises. So someone comes to you, desert island training. You've got 10 exercises you can do for the rest of your life to remain strong and functional. What are those 10 movements going to be? I'm going to write them down. I'll keep track of them for us.
All right. Number 1, bicep curls.
Obviously. Bicep curls. Awesome. Least functional, most impressive to look at. But triceps are 70% of the game. Set triceps are 70% of the game. You go killer tries, you know that. Come on. Okay. Biceps.
Yeah. Gotta have some
I can't believe you said that as number 1. Bicep curls.
Yeah, deadlifts. That's like one of the most functional lifts you can have.
Would you go barbell or would you go hex?
I think for general population, I think there's hex bar probably has a lot less risk of injury.
I think it's healthier for your spine.
Yeah, I think there's a lot less risk of injury associated with like a hex bar. So that would be a big one for me.
That's number 2. What's number 3?
Let's see here. I mean, obviously some type of shoulder press. I think that's good. I think it's really functional. Just because, I mean, you could see that movement in like, I don't know, most of your life, whether it's like
dumbbell, barbell, log press, military.
I'll say barbell. Yeah.
Barbell?
Yeah. You could put more weight on a barbell traditionally than dumbbells.
There's a lot to be said for kettlebells.
Yeah.
I know it sounds a bit gay, but kettlebells are great.
There's a lot of
stability. They don't use them in a lot of the sports now.
I use them for sure.
Do you?
Yeah.
They're great for stabilization because they're a really difficult implement for people to play around with. There is a lot of skill. Or if you get good at it, you need to be more skillful with a kettlebell.
Yeah.
But
I do like
going with the barbell overhead.
I have the kettlebell like underhand. So like I'm holding the handle, all the weights up here. And I do presses like that for shoulder stability. And wrist stability too. Because like that weight, if you have weak wrist, wants to like tip over and fall.
I do that bent down single leg, if that makes sense. So I like left leg up, right leg down, and then I'll right-handed sit it above that. Yeah, like in a lunge position, but with my right knee on the floor.
Yeah. Just
so I'm throwing in all of that core difficulty as well. And I like to do Turkish get-ups.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're really good for shoulder stability as well. Really, you can do a lot with a kettlebell.
Yeah.
Anyway, barbell overhead. That's number 3. What's number 4?
Did I say bicep curl?
We'll throw them in again. We're going to go hammer curls this time. So straight bar. We'll go hammer curls.
Let's see. I mean, I like squats and lunges for sure. I'm not too
Which one are you
specific.
having though? Desert Island. You're not allowed them both. Well, you can have them both, but you're going to lose 2 points for it.
Squats and lunges?
Well, yeah, it's 2 separate movements. You can have them both if you want to, but that's going to be 4 and 5.
Yeah, that's 4 and 5.
Okay. You having squats and lunges?
I'm going to run out, man.
Any preference on squats? Do you go barbell? Do you go, I forget the
Oh, yeah, I like
bar
the safety bar.
Safety bar. Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
nicer. It's
Yeah,
way easier for people because there can be some shoulder restrictions for people with
Yeah,
with like
and
an
it kind
Olympic
of
squat.
I feel like it compacts your torso more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you get less like what am I trying to say? I think it's easier to like understand, and like it kind of forces you into the position you need to be, for a better.
Because I think
squat.
people that
And,
have
like,
got a bit
core
of rounded
engagement.
shoulder typically struggle with getting into a squat position anyway. A lot of people say it just hurts their traps because they're not balancing it very well. But
Yeah, and
they
like,
will get there. But.
If you bring your chest up, then you're not able to compact your abdomen, and then it leads to like form deficiencies and like potential like injury. So,
All right, we've got bicep curls, deadlift, we've got barbell overhead, we've got squats, we've got lunges. You've got 5 left. You're halfway.
well, since it's an island, I think you need to play with some sand.
Okay. That's a good shout. You get a heavy bag.
Yeah.
You can fill it with sand and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. And there's so much, like, just a sandbag. Yeah. You could do a lot with that. I mean, you could do a lot of different, like, movement patterns. And, pretty functional.
Beautiful piece of kit. 4 left.
4 left.
You've done nothing with your triceps other than overhead press so far, but that's fine. All we've got is lunges. Would you think sled drags? You've got nothing. I mean, you've got some functional-ish movements in there. We're doing 0 cardio so far, but that's fine.
You just move weights faster.
Okay. Sorry.
Take less rest.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing for triceps. I guess you gotta do some. What's my favorite one?
Do you dip at all?
Traditionally I don't because it's rough on my shoulders.
Hurts my shoulders.
Yeah.
Since I tore my pec off, I don't really dip.
Yeah.
Anything at all just scares me.
I don't feel comfortable on that one enough to like recommend it to people, you know.
People that do plate loaded dips, I get it's impressive, but I don't know why you would need to do that. I just feel just do more dips if you want to. Plate loaded dips, you're just inviting injury. I don't know. Maybe it's because I can't do it very well, but I don't think you should be doing it. I think it's going to hurt at some point.
I'll give you a couple. All right. I think pull-ups are very underrated. I think push-ups are underrated as well. I would say recommend both of those. And tons of variation with both of those, target different muscles.
I love that you haven't put bench press in.
Yeah, I mean,
bench press is on the list. I only do dumbbell presses for chest now. I don't do bench press.
Yeah.
A, because I tore my pec off doing it, and B, I'm not sure it's just good for the shoulders long term. I don't think it is. I don't think it's a very natural movement. I think we want to come in at the top. Naturally, it's how the shoulders and the arms like to move.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very weak in that top third position for a pec, which is a flat, thin muscle. Again, I'd rather just do stuff with kettlebells or dumbbells and loads of push-ups.
Yeah.
But hey, maybe it's because I'm shit at it.
I would say I like incline bench a lot more than flat bench.
Mm-hmm.
I see like just because I'm in strongman, there's no like real reason for like strong pecs. Other than like
there's no real reason in life
to
be very strong at pushing forwards. It's not a functional movement. There's no practicality for it really in life.
An American football player, a wrestler maybe, push people with.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, definitely maybe for a football player. But other than that, I couldn't really see an application for it. For people in general life, we're talking about longevity. You're going to be on this island for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And that's why
you can take your missus and your daughter with you. Yeah.
Push-ups and pull-ups. Those are fantastic.
Last two.
I guess you need to do some abs, planks. Yeah, those are probably one of the best like core stability exercises.
Beautiful. I don't know if you're going to throw a farmer's walk or something in there. Something that keeps it functional.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
So we've got bicep curls, we've got deadlift on the hex, we've got barbell overhead press, squat with a safety bar, we've got lunges, we've got sandbag, pull-ups, push-ups, planks, and farmer's walk.
Beautiful.
For the rest of your life. You're never going to do another calf exercise. Never mind.
I could probably make a really good workout program with just those 10.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
That's whole body.
So you're 32 now, 32, 33.
Yeah.
Last two things I wanted to ask you. Is firefighting a job for life? Because you're getting quite successful at this other thing now.
It's crazy you brought that up, man. We're going to be here a while.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying, mate.
So,
the more I do this thing, and even though I run a podcast for it, I'm like, the health implications, the shift work, the night shifts. Mm-hmm.
How long have you been firefighting? Just because I don't...
17 years.
17 years. Okay.
Yeah, 17. Nearly 18.
Have you ever considered another job?
In the last 3 years, yes.
Have you any other experience? Because you said 17 years, so imagine you started fairly young, right?
So I started as an on-call like volley as a volunteer firefighter. I did that for a number of years, where I also had other jobs. So I worked in factories. I ran a few of my own businesses. I had 2 gyms. So I have had real jobs, because I know what you're saying. Some people that join since they're 18, they've been conditioned into this little echo chamber. They don't have any appreciation for A, what other jobs they could do.
Yeah.
B, sometimes they're not very hard workers because they've been in the fire service all their life. And some of them are lazy, very lazy. They're used to a certain routine and lots of days off.
Yeah.
Have you had different jobs?
No. So I joined the military at 18, and my job in the military was a firefighter. So I served for 6 years, and then I got out, and I'm doing the same exact job I was doing. So there hasn't been much change in that in that area. I mean, I did landscaping before, like in high school, but nothing that was like real technical or like needed, education for. So
Do you see yourself doing it for another 20 years?
that's the difficult part, because I'm sure, just like yourself, you're like, well, I've been in this job for so long. For me, it's like I don't really know a whole lot other than like what I'm passionate about, and that's like sports and like physical training and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but could I make a career off of that? I don't know. Like I feel like the market is very like oversaturated, and you have to
Massively.
find like that niche, I guess, that's going to be profitable.
You could try and create, and I don't know if you do any coaching, but like a niche within a niche. You train people for specifically firefighting strongman competitions, because even the world of strongman is not really it's a slight niche. It's smaller than the physical fitness world.
Yeah.
The top off Instagrammer that's doing high rocks or fucking bodybuilding is, you throw a stick in the air, you hit a bodybuilder these days.
Yeah.
Whereas strongman is more of a niche. But when I've done a lot of coaching in the past, it takes a lot out of you. You have to invest a lot of time into other human beings.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you a bad person if you don't enjoy it, but it's just a lot of check-ins and catch-ups and stuff like that. And sometimes it's harder to work on yourself as an athlete if you're so busy pouring into everybody else as well.
I do see that. Yeah, I'm kind of just, I'm not making any like career decisions at this point in time, but the thought has crossed my mind, like, I'm 32. Do I want to do this another 20 years? Will I be happy doing it another 20 years? Am I missing out on something that I maybe would much rather enjoy? But you just kind of get stuck in the routine, and, like, it's scary trying to like just up and quit, like, and try something
And plus,
new.
in the fire service, you don't tend to pick up a lot of qualifications that will serve you in other industries.
Yeah, a lot of it's fire related.
It's a lot of fire related. No one's going to be as interested that you're a fire inspector, you're a tactical ventilation instructor, you're a rope instructor. You're okay. That doesn't really help us in business. You can go and coach people in leadership and tactical decision making and how to make decisions in high pressure environments. Yeah, okay, you could be a speaker. I mean, you could obviously run your own gym, but again, do you want to do that? Would you rather just have someone else do it?
Yeah, and
there's
I
a
don't
million
know
of
if
them
the
out
money
there.
is there either. So I just kind of just been thinking about it, and I'm working on my education as well, and
It's important
to see if I can make something out of it, and
because you don't want to be a bottleneck either. Like if everything is a firefight, because if you had a colossal injury, that would affect your firefighting career and obviously your athletic career.
Yeah.
What have I got to fall back on? And I know people say, "Oh, don't have a plan B because it takes away from plan A." Yeah, okay, but also your body won't be able to do either of these things necessarily for another 20 years.
Yeah.
Certainly not at the level. There'll be a time when you stop being a competitive athlete through age, hopefully, not through injury. And also, yeah, you have to keep something stimulating the grey matter. It has to stay cognitively interesting, because that form of mental growth has to be there as well.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
I mean, you just have that idle time in between calls and stuff, and like some days are slower than others, but you're just like, just start to think maybe what else could you be doing?
1,000%. I think about that all the time. And the more I travel around this stuff and speak to a lot of people in the sector, a lot of people that sponsor us or partner with us, and they go, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? You know, doing some traveling and trying to promote this or use your position as an educator to help with this. And you go, yeah, but it's the security of the job as well.
Yeah.
It's like golden handcuffs. It's guaranteed for another 20 years. I don't think firefighting is going to go out of business. I think it was here long before us. It's going to be here long after we're dead in some capacity. It's going to still be there. It's not like the record industry that's going to, you know, Netflix starts up and nobody buys DVDs anymore. It's not like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This thing's probably going to be around forever. We're not going to lose AI. You know, firefighting's not going to stop when AI hits the boom. You know what I mean? Whereas accounting...
I like to see an AI sit on the couch and watch TV and drink coffee.
1,000,000%. They're going to struggle, you know?
And work out, you know?
So no, I love that bit of honesty. I'm not going to push you any further on that.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you about diet and supplementation.
Okay.
Not in a twisted, weird question, but just around standard supplementation. Because I notice, myself as well as yourself, you taking nicotine at the moment. You have nicotine pouches.
Yeah. I got Zins. I don't know if you guys have
Zins. We have Nordics in the UK, same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Why did you used to smoke?
I used to chew tobacco.
Why?
It was the people I hung out with in high school, some rednecks, you know, and then I did it in the military too. It was just like, there was plenty of people that did it, and it just kind of carried on. And then I actually did a New Year's challenge a few years back and just quit cold turkey, chewing tobacco. Mm-hmm. They say it's one of like the toughest forms of like nicotine to like quit, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's like the sensation of having something in your lip or whatever, but or like
you get a buzz from it.
The amount of nicotine, maybe. But I quit for 2 to 3 years, like no nicotine at all. And then, you know, damn it, a firefighter was like, "Have you tried these pouches?" And then like tried one, and I was like, "Oh crap,
damn it!"
But so I started I kind of started dabbling back into, you know, like nicotine, and like it was just the pouches. I was like, I don't want to get into like the messy chew tobacco. It was just a bad, like nasty habit. And so my wife started asking me like, "Hey, noticed, you know, using these. I thought you quit. What is that? You know, like, what's up? I thought you quit." So she was kind of like holding me to that standard, like, you know, you said you were going to quit. What are you doing?
Yeah, but does she think it's bad for you? Or do we think it's bad for us?
Well, I started to talk to her about it. And then she's like, maybe you should try to just, you know, like not use them. And then she noticed a change in my mood and demeanor. And then we started talking about just nicotine as itself, you know. A lot of the like tobacco products have a lot of like chemicals that are really bad for you in it, but like
the tobacco products, that's because when we say nicotine we think cancer comes from the tar and the tobacco. Nicotine is a nootropic, it's a neurostimulant. It's actually neuroprotective,
and it helps against like dementia and things of that nature. So
if you take too much of it, it can have a lot of vasoconstriction, and it can affect it can like you can have issues with your back about it and stuff like that if you take a bit too, and it can affect your gums and things like that if you're taking too much. But people chew tobacco and take nicotine as a neurostimulant. It helps their speed of thought and stuff like that. I think that's why a lot of people that are doing the nootropics movement, even for me for podcasting, I'll take it when I'm podcasting because I think a bit quicker on it.
Yeah, and
maybe I tell myself that, I don't know.
No, I think there's definitely a benefit there. And me and the wife were discussing it, and I found a couple of studies, you know, related to like nicotine and like health risks and benefits, things of that nature. And then she noticed my mood change, and she's like, maybe you should use that, like, because you seem happier. And then I did, and I was, and I am. So, like, even if, like, there's a mild health risk, like, I feel better, I'm happier, you know, like, we get along great, you know. It doesn't affect me in a way where, you know, like, I can't do this around, like, my daughter. So I just can't let her have any of them, you know? It's like, it's not a toy. It's not a toy. You gotta leave that alone. like the chew tobacco, there's all that mess and like, oh,
Yeah.
it's gross. And like, or smoke, like I don't want her lungs being
Smoking's
affected
filthy.
by
Stinks and it does kill you.
smoke
We
or
know
on
that
my
one.
clothes or something. Like you got to brush your teeth. But yeah.
Any other suggestions for people? Proteins, creatines, mass gainers. Do you have a particular partner that you work with? Is there a company that you would suggest if when you take your supplementation? Do you how much are you having? You get most of it through your food, or what does your diet look like, and what does your nutrition look like?
So my diet and nutrition is I try to stay away from processed foods as much as I can. I eat like really clean as far as like I don't eat a whole lot of vegetables, but I eat a lot of fruit. But minimal process, like I'm almost at like base ingredients, just like rice, beans, chicken, beef, steak, things like that. And I'm fine eating that simple, and I feel good eating that simple. And then like the fruit, I'll get like the natural sugars and stuff with that. That makes it taste better,
Do you count macros? Do you count your
do.
intakes?
I have a nutritionist that she does my macros for like performance based. So
What are you supposed to be hitting? Off season, on season? What's the calories? What's the proteins?
so right now I'm at like 3,500 calories a day.
Is that all?
It doesn't seem like a lot, does it?
No.
I remember in competition prep, I was up to 4,000, and I was actually losing weight on that, which is crazy to think like, how are you losing weight eating 4,000 calories a day? I was like, I was putting
You've got a
in that
6-liter
much
engine
work.
is the problem.
I was putting
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I always say to my missus, like, us going for a walk, I'm going to thrash calories more than you because I'm just carrying more muscle.
Right.
I'm not carrying masses of, not that she's not fat at all, but like I don't carry a lot of fat. I still carry a lot of muscle. My body just naturally burns more calories, which is harsh because I can get away with eating more than she can.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is. But I still hit probably 3,000 a day now. And I compete in like fitness stuff, but not strongman. I'm not trying to maintain weight.
Yeah.
It just seems to be where my body needs to sit around 3,000 at least.
Yeah.
Do you have goals for gaining weight, or you plan on staying in the 105s?
I am at a body weight where I can afford to gain weight and still be able, like within a water cut. So, and that looks like 15 pounds or
Wow.
or like 7 kilos or something. So
That surprises me that they're still doing water cuts, because that can have a lot of effect on your body's ability to not be injured. Drying the muscle belly out and stuff like that when you're competing in a sport like yours. I don't know, it'd make me a little bit nervous around something like that. But I get you got to stay underweight for it.
And I see it happen. So especially at there's a world's level competition, OSG, and there's some very large individuals who walk around 250 plus, and they cut down to the 230, and they have to lose like 20 pounds of water, and then I see the performance diminish on like what they should be able to do on day one, but by day two they're fully hydrated and just they kill it. So it's a little.
Do they weigh you on the day of then?
What did you say?
Do they weigh you on the day of competition?
Yeah, the day before.
Oh, okay. So people can do a little bit of rehydration, refeeding, refueling.
Yeah. But yeah,
it's hard
that
to squeeze
first
it
day
all
of
in.
competition, like you can notice in some people, they're just like, I thought you'd be able to do more, since you are a bigger person for this weight class.
Yeah.
But give it another day and they just destroy everybody.
Yeah.
Supplements, there's not a whole lot that I take. I take a D3 vitamin. You can get from the sun, but I have a lot of tattoos, and they say that you don't absorb as much of it from. And then
Melatonin surface area. Yeah, your body won't get as much.
Yeah, and
I think everybody in the UK should take a vitamin D supplement. We have barely any sun.
a lot
I think
of
people
clouds
don't
out
realise the detrimental effect it has on us.
Yeah. Yeah, it does a
So I
lot
take
for you.
vitamin D.
The vitamin D3.
100%. Margaret Thatcher famously used to get vitamin D injections. She was our first female prime minister.
Yeah.
And because she was so busy in offices all the time, she would get vitamin D injections because it's a massive one for your mood and your general health.
Yeah.
Do you not take anything for your joint health?
Let's see. Do I? Oh, I take krill oil. Krill oil.
Okay.
And then I take a vitamin B complex, and I take what are the other ones? I'm on some stuff to help with cholesterol. Okay. So it's like a red yeast rice. There's one other, I forget the name of it, but
you don't take creatine?
So I used to take creatine, but it elevated my kidney function too high where it was a concern. So I'm probably one of the few people that don't take it. It's one of the most like researched and like most beneficial supplements that like even if you're in like your 60s, like there's benefits for you. It's not going to make you like a mass monster and like
super jacked, no
muscles, you know, like there's a lot of benefits for creatine. And
how often do you get your blood work taken?
Not as frequent anymore. I used to do it like every 6 months.
Yeah, that's what I've started doing because otherwise you're just shooting in the dark. You don't really know what effect food, supplementation, nutrition is having. And
they did like a vitamin panel on there to see if I was deficient in everything, and that's one of the reasons why I don't take a multivitamin. It's because they're like, there's nothing really, you know, aside from like D3 that we don't see you're deficient in. You know,
you're just paying to piss it out.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you get your lab work done, you're like, oh, I'm deficient in iron. Okay, like, well, either eat more red meat or take an iron supplement. You know, otherwise you're just kind of taking something just to take it, and you don't really know if it's benefiting you.
No, 100%. And all that's happening is your kidneys and your stomach lining is just having to work that much harder, and all the stuff you did need has got less chance of it getting through.
Yeah. I think that's about it. I mean, for joint support, there's that miracle peptide, you know, BPC. So
yeah, BPC 157. Yeah, that's not made its way into the UK legally yet, but it's certainly something I'll look at when it finally arrives. I don't know where that. I think it is banned in a lot of sports, but I don't fully understand why. I think we're on a very interesting journey with supplementation.
Yeah. So at its simplest form, a peptide is a chain of amino acids. So it's essentially like broken down protein, right? If I'm understanding this correctly. I don't see why, you know, just because this structure of amino acids is having this benefit, like why is that not allowed, you know?
I think it's the administration of it. It's because you have to inject it.
Maybe.
I think that's the big thing that...
They have an oral...
Although we're doing a lot of IV stuff now, you know, so our comfort with injection as a method of administration, which is ironically much cleaner anyway, aside from the infection, if you know what I mean. Like, you try and put stuff through your stomach, most of it won't get through anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go into the hospital, what do? They'll inject you with vitamins and medications because it's a cleaner, more direct route, arguably safer for your body to absorb the thing that you're trying to give it. But yes, the administration. Yeah. I think that's what it is.
I mean,
when we think of needles, we think of drug addicts.
But I don't know how beneficial it is because I think something like BPC is better if it's injected closer to the target area.
Yeah, localized is very specific. You see people putting it directly into knees and shoulders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Certainly something I'm going to be looking at a lot more in the next 10 years. I think we're a lot further behind in the UK than we tend to be in the US. You know, we tend to be about 5 or 10 years behind you with everything by the look of it. But hopefully it gets over here before I become a crooked old man and arthritis just takes me away from sport and the job. Hopefully not. But look, man, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we've been going for like 2 hours.
I've lost track.
I know you're a busy guy, and I'm going to go and demonstrate our balance by spending time with my daughter as well. It's getting on into the evening here in the UK, but I'd love to follow up again in like 6 to 8 months. I've really enjoyed talking with you today. You haven't got to say the same vice versa and blow smoke up my ass. You can fucking log off and never speak to me again. But
No, I had fun today. I appreciate you sending out the invite and, talking with me. It's been cool,
Mate, you're pushing limits. You're the type of person that wanders out of the cave and looks what's over the horizon. You know what I mean? That doesn't say that you're dissatisfied with your life, but it says that you're curious about having new, different, challenging experiences, which ironically is the thing we're both going to tell our children is, push yourself, try hard, even if you're scared, go for new things. I think most people say that, but then they're a hypocrite in their own life when they stay in a job they hate, or they stay in a relationship they hate, or they regret never going for the thing. Yeah. Every time you get on a stage, you stand the risk of embarrassing yourself, and you do it anyway. And I think that is what we're here for. We say we want to live longer. I don't think we want to live longer. I think we want more experiences and adventures and things where we feel alive.
I agree with that.
And you putting yourself on a stage and pushing yourself, that's where the sweet spot is. That's where you feel alive. This could go right, could go wrong at any minute. You're in the flow. You're in the sweet spot. So, no, I appreciate you making time for it, mate. We spoke about time earlier, and you're a very, very busy guy. And you have invested 2 and a bit hours of your time to waffle with this bloke from the UK.
Has been cool.
Just came across.
My brother actually just moved to the UK, so.
I'm sorry to hear that. Is he okay?
His wife's from Manchester, so.
God damn it! He's gonna need some vitamin D. Tell him to get on the vitamin D.
He's been eating beans with everything. It's crazy.
Well, look, man, I hope to see you over here on a stage at some point. I wish you every success with stuff. I'd love to touch base in another 6 or 8 months to hear about the growth of the family, to hear about the misses and to hear about competition. And if you're still in the job or if you're taking that big scary leap into whatever is next for you. But some love to the family, everybody, mate. And I look forward to catching up with you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks again for having me.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Hope you took a lot away from that episode. We started the Firefighters podcast to develop, inspire, connect, motivate, represent, and most importantly, celebrate the world of incredible emergency services operators and the wider sector through this series of wide-ranging conversations. We really love creating this podcast and bringing it to so many people. Did you know you can also find these on YouTube? We do a lot of video podcasts now. You can head over to our YouTube page and follow, subscribe there. And as a final ask from us, whatever platform you're on, please rate the podcast. It really helps us as a key performance indicator to reach more and more people. I've been your host, Pete Wakefield. This has been the Firefighters Podcast. And wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, be happy, live with intention, and where possible, please remember and support your firefighters and first responders. I'll see you next time.